tuning in today, everyone. I just want to let you know my book is out and available on Amazon and Barnes& Noble. The name is Parents, Our Greatest Teachers. And now, back to our episode.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Alex Balgood, and this is Leap of Health. And today, I'm so excited. We have Dana Skoglund. She's a certified life and yoga health coach and advanced certified yoga teacher. She combines her background in Ayurveda, yoga, Buddhism, life coaching, modern psychology, and habit change science to help women cultivate balance, ease, and driving health by building healthy habits and optimizing their daily routines in her signature course, Align and Thrive. Thank you for being here, Dana. I'm so excited. We're gonna be talking about super cool information today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. And before we dive into this whole topic of habits, because it's super wide range, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get to be at this point in your life?
Yeah, so I've been a yoga teacher for about 18 years. And then 12 years ago, I had my first son. I have two boys and I was living in New York City. And we decided to move to Canada where my husband is from. So when I moved to Canada, when my first son was only about 8 months old, I was having a really hard time personally. I was suffering postpartum depression. I was exhausted because I wasn't sleeping. I felt like I didn't belong in this new place that we lived. I was lonely. I didn't have my own family. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any community. So I was really struggling. And although I did my yoga practice once a day, and that 1 hour gave me, a little bit of relief, and I felt good for, that 1 hour. But then afterwards, I was back to kind of feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and exhausted and depressed and lonely. So I was really looking for something, and I found Ayurveda, which is yoga's sister science. Mm-hmm. And I was always very interested in holistic health and alternative medicine. My parents were always into that. So I was always kind of around that and exposed to it. So I naturally gravitated towards it, and I really wanted to learn how to heal my own body and to use, food as medicine. But what I learned was daily habits. And one of the aspects of Ayurveda is about aligning your daily routine with the rhythms of nature. So just changing things like when I was going to bed and when I was waking up and when I was eating, those little shifts that I started to make when I was learning it just changed everything. I had so much more energy. My sleep got better. My depression went away. I felt more calm. I felt happier. And it was just these like little lifestyle changes, these habits that I built. And so as I started to feel better, I felt like for the first time in my life, I had clarity on what I wanted to do. I was like, everyone needs to know about this. I need to tell everyone. So for the last 8 years, I have been doing that. I've been telling anyone who will listen about this very amazing, elegant system of living that is Ayurveda, and these very simple and practical daily habits that completely change how you feel every day and brings your body back into balance, allows your body to heal itself. And so I have been, I learned, what to do, but then what I found in my coaching practice, I don't know if you can hear my dog, he's dreaming. I noticed that some people were really struggling with making changes to their habits. And some people would learn a habit and then right away, it was very easy for them to adopt. Other people struggled. So I went deeper into the behavioral change and the habit change and understanding, why people, do what they do and why we do things that we know aren't good for us and why we self-sabotage and why sometimes we have such a hard time following through on our plans. So that's where I got deeper into the life coaching and psychology and behavioral change. I have a degree in psychology, so I had always kind of been interested in that. So that's where I really focused on not only what habits help you be healthy and happy, but how to build habits, how to change habits, how to permanently shift your behavior so that you can actually bridge the gap between what you know you want to do and you know will help you and actually doing it.
That's amazing. And I love that you mentioned, I mean, I've done a lot of interviews and with all these experts, and they'll kind of like, I like that they all agree on it's a whole mind, body, soul work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, I'm going to read a book and change my mind, or I'm going to just eat healthy and everything else will follow, or I'm just going to exercise. It's almost, it's kind of like a fact that you need to, we're like a whole system. We can be separating our mind, body, and soul from anything that we do or any change that we do. So I like that you mentioned that. And I know you're mentioning Ayurveda. Ayurveda? Yes.
Yeah.
Play on accent. But tell us a little bit about how that changed you a little bit with the habits, or how did that help you? Because I know a lot of my listeners know what Ayurveda is, but maybe not completely. How did you use that? Because I know we use that for, as you said, we use food as our medicine. But how did that started changing for you and your habits, just in general?
Yeah. So I'll just give like a really brief explanation of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda it's known as yoga's sister science because it comes from the same place that yoga comes from the Vedas, which are over 5,000 years old. So it's the oldest written healing science that exists. So it's really stood the test of time. And it's, like I said, it's all about, well, one of the things that it's about aligning with nature and these rhythms of nature. So for example, when the sun is highest in the sky in the middle of the day, that sun represents our digestive fire. So our digestive fire is also strongest in the middle of the day, which means that that's when we should eat our biggest meal. We should have a nice big lunch because our body can fully break down all of that food and turn it into energy and nutrients and the cells of our body. But most people don't make lunch the main meal. They make dinner the main meal. But like the sun, when the sun goes down, our digestive fire also goes down. We have less and less bile and ability to break down and process our food. So when we don't fully digest our food, what happens, the result of that is this kind of sticky, sludgy byproduct, toxic residue that is the thing that's creating the diseases in our body and the problems in our body. So when we just shift, having a big lunch and then having dinner be a little bit earlier and a little bit lighter, we are making it easier for our body to digest the food. So we're taking less energy to break down that food because, most people that I talk to struggle with low energy, and I was too. And that's because we're using a lot of energy to digest food, especially if we're having a really big, heavy, late dinner at a time where our body is not meant to do that. So when you eat a lighter dinner, you free up energy and you feel better, you feel more energized, and then you wake up with more energy too, instead of feeling, I don't know if you've ever had like a late heavy dinner and then you wake up the next day and you're groggy and you feel heavy and sluggish. So things like that, it's like you feel lighter, you have less digestive issues. I've had clients, lose tons of weight just by shifting lunch and dinner and just switching those two meals and like how much they're having at each meal. I've had people overcome a lifelong insomnia and be able to finally sleep through the night because their body, you're setting your body up to function optimally when you're optimizing your digestion. And so, yeah, for me, it was just having more energy, being able to sleep better, and my moods. Like the thing is, like you said, it's all connected. It's, what we do physically affects how we feel mentally, which affects all of it. So it is all connected. And that is one of the things about Ayurveda too. It recognizes that body, mind, soul, each thing affects the other. So we have to address the whole person, and we have to look at every part of their life and every part of their being and bring all of them into balance. So yeah, so because I was pretty healthy before. I was a yogi. I was, always fit and pretty healthy in what I ate, but it was just making refinements and tweaks that really made a big difference. And it's a lot of the stuff is not necessarily common knowledge. in our culture. Like the thing about eating a big lunch and having a kind of a smaller dinner. Our culture is very much about eating a big, having a big production for dinner. So it's sometimes it can be a little, mental shift that we have to make those changes, but you notice them right away. Like the next day you feel lighter and you feel better and you sleep better and you have more energy.
Nice. Yeah, for sure. Little changes always go a long way.
Yeah.
You could see it right away. Sometimes you can't, but definitely. And we're going to be talking about habits. I know, as people always say, like, I'm a creature of habit. Yes, we are. We
Yeah, we are.
repeat,
It's true.
yes. So we repeat things over and over, sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about everyone is that we could make changes anytime we want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I know a lot of people, especially on summer, that are like, I want to get, my body ready for the vacation or the wedding or the party or whatever, right? And people start trying to make changes, which they last for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And so that's where you come in.
Yeah. It's the number one challenge that I hear that people have is consistency, is maintaining. So it's very easy to do something for a short period of time. And often what the problem I see is that people try to make too many changes at once. And there's this kind of all or nothing mentality where it's like, I'm ready to change. So I'm going to, change my diet and start exercising and go to bed early and wake up early. And like, they have this laundry list of things they want to change and they try to do it all at once. Yes. Now I want it yesterday. And I get it. Like I am impatient and I'm, want all the things, but you can't sustain that level of change. It's just too much. So the way that I teach is I actually have to slow people down and we have to make the changes really small. And then when it's small, there's less resistance. Sometimes, we have resistance, say like waking up in the morning early. It's like the alarm goes off and we just want to turn it off and go back to bed. So slowly moving the clock back, instead of going from like 8 a.m. to 6 a.m., we go 8 a.m. to 7:45 for a week and then 7:30. And so it's a little bit easier. And we can kind of, I think of it as making it so easy you can't say no. So if it's so small, you're like, okay, I can do that. And then it's just about establishing the new habit. So once that small change is established and normal, then you can build on it. And something like exercising in the morning. If you're going from nothing and then you think you're going to go to a yoga class every day in the morning, it's too big of a jump. So I tell people, okay, 7 minutes, move for 7 minutes. And that's it. Like stop at 7 minutes and do that for a week and then go up to 10 and slowly. So I think, that's the one thing is just instead of this kind of all or nothing mentality, really think tiny and think like, how small can I just start, which makes it easier to get started. And then you can always, once it's just part of what you do and part of who you are, then it's easier to build on it. And that's a big piece of it too, is when people have the thought, I'm just not good at being consistent, and they have that belief about themselves, they'll prove that true because somewhere in the back of their mind, they're like, I'm not going to be able to stick with this. So they'll set off on a goal and they'll hit the ground running and try to make all these changes. But at some point they're like, I'm not going to stick with this. Like, I'm going to fall off the wagon eventually, like I always do, because I'm not good at being consistent. So one of the things I do with people is we talk about identity evolution and changing how you see yourself and your self-concept and the thoughts that you have about yourself, because that determines how you show up and your behaviors. So it's like you make changes, small changes, and every small change is reinforcing this new way of being. It's like, I'm becoming a morning person. I'm becoming someone that exercises every day, or whatever it is that you're trying to change. It's like really anchoring this new way of being, because we will always want to be congruent with how we see ourselves. We just want, if we think we're a certain way, we will just show up in that way. So that's, I think, the two things that I see that people miss, which is, trying to do it to make too many changes at once or too big of changes, and then holding on to the old beliefs about themselves, while they're trying to make new changes, and they will always be pulled back to that old identity. So that, it doesn't work. So something I teach is the 3E method of behavioral change and habit change. So one is environment, and we are environmental creatures. So our environment is constantly like triggering us to do certain behaviors. If you're trying to eat healthy, but you are surrounded by junk food, good luck. It's not going to work. So that's the easiest thing we can do, is just change what's in your environment. Like put your running shoes at the foot of your bed, like get your workout clothes ready, like all these little things you can do to just make it a little bit easier for you to be cued and have that reminder to do that new behavior or to change that behavior. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. But the thing is, we can't always control our environment. So you can only do that, some of the time, but you're going to go somewhere to a restaurant or to a party, and there's going to be things that you aren't eating and you don't want to eat. So that doesn't work 100% of the time. So that's when you need the other 2 E's. And the second E is emotions. So our emotions are what drive our behavior. If you have a craving and an urge to eat chocolate, mm-hmm. you're going to be compelled to eat chocolate. That like you have that feeling that's driving you to seek that chocolate. Sure, you've never experienced this. I've definitely experienced this. So it's understanding, and often like with emotional eating, like we'll eat to numb emotions, or we'll drink, or we'll scroll, or we'll either do things like overwork to avoid certain emotions. So a big part of what I do is helping people change their relationship with their emotions. So they're not reacting to their emotions, and they instead learn how to process them, and then create emotions like commitment and motivation and discipline and dedication, and all of these emotions that help you be consistent and follow your plan and ultimately build the habits that you want to build. And then the third E is kind of what I talked about before with the identity evolution, so that it's evolved mindset. So it's really, how do you see yourself? What are your thoughts about yourself in relation to this habit? And it's, let's say you want to give up sugar, and one of your thoughts about sugar is that it makes me happy. So if you think that, if you continue to think it makes me happy, but you're trying not to eat it, it's not going to work, because you're just going to be like, but it makes me happy. Or like I've heard, people say that with alcohol, but it's my happy place. So we have to change how we're thinking about certain things to ultimately be able to change what we're doing and the habits that we have. So that's some of the like deeper work that we have to do in terms of like really permanently changing our habits for good, and being able to be consistent with it. Because if we believe like sugar does not make me happy, it makes me sick, or like, I don't want this thing, and it doesn't serve me at all to have this in my life. If we really truly think about it that way, then it becomes really easy to let it go.
You think to start a new habit, we should actually sit first and ask ourselves, why do I want to change this? Why do I want to stop drinking or smoking or eating sugars or whatever it is, scrolling for 3 hours on my phone? Like, do you think it's easier, or do you think this might be helpful to actually sit on these thoughts that we want to, because we all want a better life, and we all want to change. But as you said, it's a whole, 3-step thing. You can't just be like, today I'm going to stop doing this, or I'm going to start doing this forever.
Exactly. Yeah. The first thing. That's the first thing you should do, is ask yourself why. And when you are clear about your why and your motivations, that when you think about it, it creates motivation. It creates that emotion that fuels your follow through. So I recommend people have a lot of whys, like make a big list of why you want this. And so that you have different reasons for different situations, and something that you can look at often and remind yourself of why you're doing this, because it's not easy to change. It's like you said in the beginning that we're creatures of habit. So our brain just wants to do the easy thing. It wants to just go into default and kind of do the same thing it's always done. So when we ask ourselves to change, it doesn't come easily, because our brain would just rather do what it's always done. It's like it takes less energy to just keep repeating. But when we want to change, we have to put in we have to be more mindful. We have to focus, we have to commit. It takes more effort. So we have to have a good enough reason to be willing to do that, to be willing to endure a little bit of a discomfort in the beginning until something just becomes normal. And we just get used to it and just becomes part of our new default, our new normal.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that you said, like, once we know why we're doing it, I think, because it's almost like in our society, we see habits as the hardest thing to do. I think we need to start from that, people. Habits are, yes. I mean, everything that we really want, it takes some work, right?
Mhm.
Like relationships, to have a good relationship, you have to do some work, right? If you want to have some good muscles, you have to go to the gym and kind of like lift a little bit.
Yeah.
So habits is that really good thing too, that it does take a little bit of work, but you almost like reframe it in your mind as like, oh, I have bad habits, or like, no,
Right.
building a new habit is, oh, I'm not gonna do it. I think, let's change that up.
Mhm.
Let's, you want to be healthy, you want to be better at your relationship, you want to be doing whatever, or stop doing whatever it's not, getting a better of the best of you. Change the mindset, right?
Yeah.
And then little by little, as you said. And I know you said make these little steps, do one little thing at a time, do the 15-minute workout in the morning, the 5-minute workout, the 10-minute earlier before, your goal of time waking up, whatever it is. So once we do that, right, and we're like at the 5-day mark, and we're like, yes, we're doing it. This is happening. And then suddenly it's Sunday, and we're like, oh, it's Sunday. Are we gonna like, because people might be thinking like, what about I just did it 5 days and now Sunday, my body just slept through. I couldn't wake up. Are we gonna beat up ourselves for now waking up to Sunday? Is our habit dead?
No.
Do we need to start all over again?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah. Well, one thing I do is we need to change our relationship with when we fall off the wagon, because we often just beat ourselves up and judge ourselves and criticize ourselves and have all this negative self-talk, which just actually perpetuates more bad decisions.
Yeah.
So that's like the first thing that I tell people. It's like, stop doing that, because it's not actually helping you change your behaviors. It's actually making it worse. So can you instead get curious and look at, okay, what is happening on Sunday? Like, what are the thoughts that are creating the shift in how you're feeling, that might change, that might have led to you not doing the thing you said you were going to do? So the more awareness we can bring to it, and the more we can get curious, and from a place of non-judgmental self-compassion, we can see, okay, why is it hard? Like, and that's when we go into kind of uncovering some of these limiting beliefs and some of the mental resistance that is getting in the way. It's like we want to move that stuff out of the way. And then, like I said, some people would just start a new habit and have no problem. They had no mental resistance. There was nothing in the way of doing it. So when there is something in the way, we need to address that, because then you're just going to keep beating your head against the wall and keep kind of falling off the wagon over and over and over again, and getting this kind of yo-yo mentality that a lot of people get into. So we want to understand why. And I teach people a process of that, like finding out, okay, this is what you did. Let's find out what was happening. What was happening in the environment? What was the circumstance? then how were you feeling? What was the emotion that was present? Why were you feeling that? What were you thinking? And so when they can see the situation really clearly, they can see, oh, it's because, I was mad at my husband because he did this thing, and then I was stressed out, so I just went to the kitchen and I ate chocolate. It's like, okay, so now we need to think about when you're maybe in a situation like that in the future, what can you do differently? And so we create a new neural pathway of like a plan, and you can even visualize yourself doing it differently next time. So the next time you're in that situation, you've already thought through how you're going to do it differently. Mm-hmm. So it's like, not what we do is we fall off and then we don't even want to look at it. We're like, oh, I did it again, and we beat ourselves up, but we don't learn from it. Mm-hmm. So instead, can we not make it a problem? Can we not judge ourselves? Can we look at it and understand it, and then take that learning into our future so that we'll be less likely to fall into that same pattern again, and do it a little bit differently? And sometimes we have to work at it for a while, and that's okay. It's like, that's the journey. And we often have unrealistic expectations for how long it's going to take. And again, it's like, we want it right now, we want it yesterday, and we're very impatient. And we've also been sold in our culture that like these, you can overhaul your life in 21 days, and like, here's a pill and your problems are gone. And
yeah,
which is just not really how it works sometimes. And sometimes it is quick. It's like, you said, people can struggle for a long time, but sometimes like someone gets a cancer diagnosis and then they can quit smoking like that day, and it takes no time. And then other people try to quit for like 10 years. So and that is connected to the why. That's like, if you have a strong enough motivation, you can do it fast. So, there's so many layers. It's, different things we do need to address, and looking at all the pieces that contribute to why we do what we do, and what gets in the way of maintaining the changes that we want to make.
Yeah, for sure. I really like that you said, get curious and think about what happens. So let's say, go back to this example that we're saying of waking up early and do the little exercises, and Sunday we forgot, or we just lived through the whole thing and we woke up at 1 p.m. No, I'm just exaggerating. But that could happen. Instead of, getting up and having maybe that negative feeling, or going back to where you started, maybe, reframe the situation, right? Like, didn't get up to do my workout, but maybe maybe I could sit for 10-15 minutes and do like a breath work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's often what happens, is we get into this like screw it mentality, where it's like, if we didn't follow the plan exactly, we're like, forget it, I'm just going to throw the whole thing out the window and completely like sabotage. So, and I think it is this, like, we just dismiss the whole thing. And there's always, first we can just not judge ourselves. And I think also understanding that how humans work is really helpful too. Like, we are hardwired to seek pleasure, avoid pain, conserve energy, and these big motivators. So it's like, we can be kinder to ourselves. Like, of course you're going, you're just grabbing takeout instead of cooking the meal that you planned. Like, you're human. Like, this is normal. Like, don't make yourself wrong. And you can make a different decision. So how can we make that decision? How can we make it easier for you to make this new decision and make this normal and part of your life? So, but I think curiosity is such a helpful emotion in so many ways, on so many levels. And because it is like not judging, it's like trying to understand so that we can have more self-awareness, and self-awareness is ultimately what's going to help us change, not self-hate or loathing or criticism. Like, that definitely doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. Because then we go into, as you said, we are hardwired, and unfortunately we hardwire also to negativity.
Yes.
Like this loops, like, I suck, I this, I that. And what do you do when, like, with your clients that are super hardwired to, like, they made a mistake and that's it, it's the end?
Yeah.
What are some of the things to retrain this like little, loop, like this negative loop that we built within ourselves for like since we're little. We're like, oh, it's not working, I suck, I can't do it, I can't do it. What are some of the things that you tell them to kind of like go through that
Yeah.
in a better way?
Yeah. So I give my clients daily journal prompts that helps them to rewire some of that thinking. And it includes things like a gratitude practice, celebrating your wins. Like these are always like, we're always focusing on what we didn't get right, or, what we don't already have, and the lack and the scarcity and the negativity. So it's being intentional about training your brain to look for the good, and to look for the positive, and to look for the wins, and to look for how you are making progress. And so I often have to just show them like, but you are improving. Like, look at this that you did, and look at this that you did. And it's like, we don't even notice that stuff. And it's like, we just focus in on what I didn't do right and why I'm still not there yet. And so I think it's definitely a practice that we have to do daily, because it's true. We're all hardwired, but some more than others, towards that negativity. And it served us. It's like a survival mechanism. We had to know, like, where's the threats? Where's the wild animals? And where's the danger? And so now we're still doing that. Like, where's the problem? Like, I got to find the problem. So I think that just also showing people that how, when they think this way, like what that creates in their life. And again, show increasing self-awareness of this thought is not serving you, and it's creating this result in your life. And then I also help them like really question some of those negative thoughts and see how they have no validity, they're not true, and help them see the truth. And so often, when we can just see how some of these recurring negative thoughts make no sense actually when we look at them.
A lot of them.
A lot of them, that it's so much easier to let them go when we see just how ridiculous so many of those thoughts are, and how it's just programming. It's just like automatic negative thinking that comes in from who knows where. It could be childhood, it could be the news, it could be like what we're taking in. But the important thing is that our thoughts are not true. They're just made up, all of them, every single one. So if you're going to make up thoughts, you might as well make good ones. Yeah. At least you'll feel better. But helping people understand that they have the ability to change them. But again, it's like seeing why the thought isn't, like, it's not helpful for them. Mm-hmm. Because I think in some small ways, sometimes people think that, or it's not even conscious. It's like they think this because in a way it's keeping them safe. Like, I just coached a client, and she's a coach, and she's not, putting herself out there. And one of her thoughts is, I don't know enough. So we looked at that, and I asked her, like, what is enough? Like, how will you know when you know enough? And then after she realized, it's like, yeah, enough is everything. And then she was laughing. It's like, obviously, I'm never going to know everything. And so it's like really poking holes in some of these negative thoughts that are holding you back in your life. But it was serving her, because it kept her safe in the cave of like not having to put herself out there, because as long as she believed that, she didn't have to put herself out there, and she didn't have to risk rejection and failure and all the things that ultimately is what holds us. Like, that's what we're scared of. So that's such an important thing. This is where, why like coaching is so powerful. It's like we sometimes need someone to show us our own thoughts and show us how they don't make sense and what they're creating in our life. Sometimes we can't even see that for ourselves. So we need this kind of outside perspective to hold up the mirror and point these out and kind of point out our blind spots. Because we can't, I think of, you can't read the label from inside the jar. Like, you're inside of your belief, you're inside of the thoughts, and you don't even recognize it. They're just optional, and they're not helpful, and they're not serving you in your life.
I love that you said that You're inside the jar. You can't read the ingredients. You can't read the label. It's so true. I think I've thought, I had a 10-part series about mentors and how like mentors have changed other people's lives.
Mhm.
And, you know, sometimes to keep, ourselves safe, we think that we could do it by ourselves. We don't need anyone, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I think having a wider perspective
Mhm.
and someone else to help us see what we're not seeing through our blind spots.
Yeah.
How great is that? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
do you want to be half blind or do you want to see the whole thing?
Right.
That's
Right.
one of those questions. Um, but how, tell me how important it's actually coaching, especially when it comes down to habits. Because as we said, we're trying to change this, um, how we see them. But sometimes, as you said, some people change us really quickly. Some of us, takes us a little bit longer. And some of us, we need someone else to kind of like guide us through these life changes, like these very important changes that we need to do, especially when it comes down to like, um, you know, alcohol or like overeating, things that are actually uh, really messing up our amazing lives, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah, I think that coaching is so powerful on so many levels. One being simply just the accountability. And when you decide you want to change something, accountability makes you 85% more likely to be successful. And as humans, we just do better with accountability. We are just not good at keeping promises to ourselves. But as soon as there's someone else there that we're kind of, we're committing to, or we're talking about this with, and we're sharing our goals, and they're following, they're checking in with us every single week of how it's going and what are you working on this week, that alone is sometimes enough, like just having that accountability. So that's one reason why it's so powerful. And the second part is the actual coaching itself. It's people need to be ready to change, and they might on one level want to change, but they're not quite ready yet. So I think a coach can, at least, what I do is we focus on changing the beliefs and the thoughts first, and then the change in behavior is just a ripple effect of that. So it's not like you don't need willpower, you're not white knuckling, you're not like trying to force yourself into something that you're not ready for. So when you have more self-awareness of, let's understand this habit as it is more right now, so we can see how it's serving you in your life now, because it's serving you in some way,
Yeah.
usually as an escape or as a coping mechanism or self-medication or whatever it is. So let's find out like the deeper, and I do causal coaching, so we get to the root cause. Like we need to find out why, what is driving this, what are the root causes of this issue in the first place, and then change them at the root first. And so sometimes that means we don't even necessarily focus on the behavior, but we just focus on understanding it more, and again getting curious about it, and not like removing all the judgment, because I think again it's like that really gets in the way of when we're judging ourselves and having all the guilt and the self-criticism and negative self-talk. It just keeps us stuck, really. So a neutral, non-judgmental coach can really help you just look at this and understand it, and then be able to slowly change those beliefs and identities and thoughts around it, so that it can fall away much easier, and it's just happens almost automatically.
Yeah, because I know one of our main things that happen as we're changing things, we self-sabotage
Yes.
ourselves. We're
Yes.
like
Yes.
really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going back to what we were talking, is it because we're wired to go on that negative loop?
I think it's because, I think there's many reasons why, but I think it is that old identity. It's like when we think we're a certain way, and then we all of a sudden start behaving differently, there's this cognitive dissonance where our brain's like, wait, I'm not like that though. I'm not someone that wakes up in the morning and exercises. So we can do it for a little while and just kind of force ourselves and use willpower. But ultimately, if we don't believe that that is who we are, we will just revert back to how we see ourselves truly. So that's why this kind of identity evolution stuff is so important, because you will self-sabotage because you don't fully believe that you're this kind of new person. So it's like every level that you kind of upgrade your habits, it's like really solidifying that and making that normal and internalizing it. It's like, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
And taking it in and changing a lot of those belief systems so that you don't then self-sabotage. But then it's also, I mean, that's on one level, but another level is simply, like I said, we're hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. So some of that is just like that primitive urge to feel good in the moment is going to drive us to have that drink or to eat the sugar or to scroll. It's like we're just reacting to that primitive part of us. So I think that, we don't even have to read into that at all. It's just like, of course you did. You're human. And and you're also evolved. So there are both parts of us. We have this very evolved part of us, and then we have this very primitive part of us. And often those two parts of us are at odds with each other and are kind of, it's like the angel and the devil on the shoulder. It's so it's like navigating, the human experience, which is real.
For sure. And I think it's super important to just acknowledge that, because life is going to happen.
Yeah.
Wedding is going to happen. A birthday is going to happen. The party at work is going to happen. The whatever it is that, kids are going to happen. We could find so many things to like blame why we stopped, our little habit that we're trying to build. Yeah. And I think just acknowledging that life is life. Yes. Our parents are going to die, like tragic things, that we forget life it's built off, which is good things like parties, tragic, deaths, accidents, loss of job. I mean, life is never perfect. And I think, as crazy as it might sound, even you just hearing it now, because maybe you were not thinking about it. You're like, oh, dead? What? No, I was just listening to this about habits.
Yeah.
But, life is so complex and full of everything. How do you navigate personally when life happens? Because I know we beat up ourselves because we stopped that Sunday and didn't do our workout. But life is happening. Life will never stop just because we want our life to be cookie cutter type of thing.
So I teach something called the 50-50 concept, which is 50% of life is great and the way you want it to be and fun and enjoyable and pleasant, and the other half of the life sucks. And that's life, and it's always going to be that way. And so whenever I call, it the shitty 50, whenever we're in the shitty 50, we can just label it like, okay, I'm in the shitty 50. And instead of making it a problem, instead of feeling what we do for ourselves, we judge it and we feel like it shouldn't be like this and we fight reality. And then that just makes it, we just compound suffering on top of suffering. So instead of doing that, we can just recognize, okay, this is, you can't have the good without the bad. Like dark does not exist without light. Or light does not exist without dark. It's supposed to be this way. It's on purpose that we have this contrast of life. So let's not make it a problem. And when we can shift our relationship to it, then we aren't trying to escape it so quickly. And I think the problem comes when we make it a problem. And then the way that we cope is what we make it a problem with, like the way that we numb or escape or self-medicate or cope with a lot of usually bad habits like overeating, over drinking, overworking, over distracting, like all these kind of instant gratification behaviors that gives us temporary relief. Mm-hmm. And, we get to like escape just, momentarily, but it just usually makes it worse because then we're layering on a whole other problem on top of whatever is happening that, whatever circumstance. So I think when we can just process our feelings and process our emotions whenever life happens and something happens that is painful, when we can actually change our relationship to those feelings and allow them and process them and have compassion for ourselves and be with ourselves and make space to feel whatever we're feeling, then we just take off like 50% of the emotional suffering just by simply not making it a problem and allowing some of those unpleasant emotions to just be and to process through them. And then from that place, there's a lot more, in psychology, it's called emotional flexibility, where we can then decide, we can shift our perspective. We can choose to see the good, or we can look for the lesson in it, or we can see the opportunity in something that feels initially really painful and negative. So, but when we just escape and distract and avoid and numb, we don't have that. Then we're just like resisting something, and what you resist persists. And then it's, we make that suffering last so much longer than it actually needs to. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great. I think the whole perspective thing, it's a big one when it comes to like, these life changes that we're trying to build within these habits. Seeing as we're all humans, we are mostly going to fail sometimes.
Yeah. And I would say, the other way, and the other way I deal with that is like getting coached. Honestly, it's like coaches need coaches. And I am so grateful that I have every single week an opportunity to discuss whatever life things happen that weren't the way that I wanted them to, or any issues or problems that do come up. And that's, it's like we can either have a coach, or hopefully we have like people in our lives that we can just talk to and be able to process even verbally through just talking about what we're going through and what's happening and how we're feeling. And because that can just be in and of itself so healing and so helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I know as I mentioned, I did a 10-part series with all these mentors, and we talk about how like mentorship is not, like some of us do have the means to go and hire a coach, but maybe a lot of my listeners, they don't, or they don't have the time, or whatever it is. And we did mention on it that mentors have like different faces. They can be your kids. They're always teaching you something, right? Your parents, people at work, even people that you see sometimes on the streets that they don't even say anything, but by a reaction, a smile, they're always, changing our lives. We're always changing each other's lives, whether we know it or not. So I think definitely being open-minded about this whole mentorship and coaching. I think it's great. It's very important for our evolution, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And hopefully we just have some really good friends, like people that we can call up when we need to, vent about something or talk about whatever's challenging in our life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This has been great. I think we cover a lot of this whole habit topic. I think it's super important. Everything that we talk about, I'm sure it's just a reminder for everyone, because we all know what we need to do.
Yes, that's never the problem. Rarely. It's rarely the problem.
Exactly. We just really need to get up and do those changes that we really want to do. I feel like, we deserve it. We're our best investment, health-wise, mental-wise, physical, we could do it. Everybody listening out there, you could do it. Anything that you want to be, you could become, even the way stars far away. It's not the limit. There's more stars. We just found out this week.
Yeah, I know. Amazing. Right? Yeah, my husband's been showing me these amazing photos all day of like, look at this one, and it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So for anyone who ever wants to start something, do it. You could change it. You can make your lifestyle better anytime. And if you fall the one, don't worry about it. Think about it, see what happened, and move on. Keep on doing it. I think that's one of the keys. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us with this whole amazing topic today?
Yeah, I just want to echo what you just said, is that change is possible. And sometimes it can feel like, like I just keep trying and maybe I can't. And maybe, this is how it's always supposed to be. And I'll never be able to, be the way I want. But I would just say that science proves that you can change, and neuroplasticity and all, it's totally possible. And when you really just put the right ingredients together, limitless possibilities. And so I think reminding yourself of that, and also just looking at all the ways that you have changed, will show you that that's true. And
Exactly.
trust your desire. Like if you have a desire for something that you want, it is meant for you. And that is your dharma, that is your purpose. Like you are meant to go after that. And even if it's hard, and even if you struggle, and even if it takes you 10 times longer than you think it will, keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, you are limitless. That's the key right here. If anyone wants to find that more about you, get a coaching, or if they have any other questions, where can they find you?
My name everywhere. So danaskoglund.com is my website. And then you can find me there on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the places. And I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what's habit you are working on, or what you're struggling with, or if there's a habit you want to break, or a new habit you want to build, or if you have any questions about any of this, I would love to hear from you.
Yay. And I will put all her information on the show notes. I know you also have a group on Facebook, which is free and everybody can join. And so I'll put all that information there. For everyone that would like to keep on, knowing more about my show, you can always find me on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on my website at www.alexvalgood.com. Alex Valgood on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube too. Also, remember, my book is out. It's called Parents Are Greatest Teachers. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can always get it there, or you can also DM me on Instagram and you can get it from me too. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. This was so great. Everybody have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.